You avoided the gym for years, or the pool, or the group fitness class, or the photo at the family reunion, and you told yourself it was because you were lazy or busy or not that kind of person, or you didn't like that shirt. But what if none of that was true? What if the real reason, the one that's been quietly running underneath all of it, started with something someone said to you when you were a child? I'm Jennifer, a licensed therapist and a trauma-informed strength coach. I have owned a women's gym for over 12 years, and I've worked with more than 1,500 women. I have also lived this situation myself. Not a dramatic event, just a comment, maybe at the dinner table or in a locker room, or from a teacher who didn't think twice about what they were saying. You probably don't even think of it as a thing that happened to you, but your body absorbed it. Your nervous system filed it, and it has been quietly shaping every fitness decision you have made since. I am going to show you exactly how and why it was never about discipline. Not once. I remember as a kid in elementary school, probably middle school, being told I had chicken legs, I looked like olive oil, then I was told my arms were hairy. There were so many comments coming at me. And then by the time I got into middle school, high school, I had this huge birthmark on the inside of my left thigh. I mean, it honestly looked like I pooped on my leg. And over time, that birthmark grew larger. And if you remember in gym class, right, we had to wear shorts, go and change. I would walk into gym class and everybody would be like, ew, what is that on your leg? Like, they have literally seen this thing on my leg year after year after year. And then finally at one point, that thing started to grow hair. And I was like, okay, this is not cool, right? My mom took me and found out that it was precancerous and we had to have it removed, right? But what did all of those things do to me? It caused me to hide, to shrink, to cover myself up, right? And not expose myself. And that started to shape so much more than just my physical outside exterior. It shaped about how I felt about myself. Here's what I want you to notice about that story. I didn't stop playing sports because I lacked discipline, or I didn't do it because I was lazy. I didn't avoid the gym because I just didn't feel like it. I stayed small because my body learned very early that being seen was dangerous. And I know I'm not the only one who has experienced this. I have had clients come in, women with strong, beautifully toned legs. And when I tell them that, they look at me like I said something in another language. So I ask, where did you hear that your legs were ever a problem? And almost every time they can tell me exactly the year, the room, the person. For example, one woman had beautiful legs, but she kept thinking that her legs were too big, her quads were too big, her thighs were too big. And when asking, where does this belief come from? And it came from one simple moment. A gymnastic coach who told her that her legs were not thin enough and that she was not able to be in this competition, and that she actually had to take a little back area and she had to be in the back row of this group competition that they were doing. What do you think that did to her? It told her she was not okay enough. She was not okay enough to be seen. And then there are the women who were told many times, often by a parent, often by their mother, that they were chunky or heavy or too thick, or that they needed to watch it. Some started dieting at 10 or 12 years old. Some were put in Weight Watchers as children by their parents. And many of them spent the next 3 or 4 decades trying to fix something. Dieting, restricting, starting over, trying harder, forever chasing, because they were told that their body was the wrong shape. Here's what makes this even more painful. I referred some of these women to a specific type of specialist, and some of them found out they had lipedema or lymphedema. These are conditions that cause the body to store fluid and fat tissue in ways that diet and exercise cannot fully change. They were not undisciplined, they were not failing. They had a disease that nobody had bothered to diagnose. And some of them did not have a disease at all. They just had a larger body, a body that was perfectly healthy, a body they were never supposed to apologize for. What they had was a label given to them in childhood by someone who should never have been trusted with that authority. And what happened to both groups was the same, okay? Years of restriction, years of losing lean muscle mass, the very tissue that protects metabolic health, bone density, joint integrity. Years of eating so little that nutrient deficiency became their baseline. Years of a self-concept built around the idea that their body was a problem to be solved. Not a home to live in, not a tool to build strength with, but it was a problem. That is not a nutrition story. That is a nervous system story. And it starts almost always with a comment. Stay with me because this is the part that actually changes things, not the understanding, the physiology of what comes next. Let me explain what was actually happening, not emotionally, but physiologically. When a child is publicly shamed, especially about her body, the nervous system registers it as a threat, not a metaphorical threat, a real one. The same system that would activate if you were being chased by a bear. Cortisol spikes, the sympathetic nervous system fires, the body goes into self-protection mode. Now, here is the part most people don't know. That response doesn't just happen once and go away. If it happens repeatedly, same context, same shame, same environment, the nervous system begins to anticipate it. The body learns being seen equals a threat. And the body's most intelligent response to a threat it can't escape, it's to make yourself smaller, physically smaller. Shoulders start rounding forward, chest drops, the spine collapses inward, eyes go down, and the body takes up less space. And that posture then sends signals back to the brain. Collapsed posture doesn't just reflect safety or lack of safety, it sustains it. The posture created by the shame keeps you in shame physiology. So you are not just carrying a memory, you are carrying an architecture, a physical structure that was built to protect you and never got that signal that the danger has actually passed. And then 30 years later, someone tells you to go to the gym and you don't know why you can't make yourself go. You call it laziness or lack of motivation or no willpower. It was never any of those things. Most of the fitness industry is trying to solve a motivation problem or discipline by more discipline, a better system, accountability partners, a trendy new program. And I understand why you have tried those things. They are not wrong. They are just aimed at the wrong layer because you don't have a motivation problem. You have a safety problem. Your nervous system does not yet believe that being visible in a gym or in a mirror or in a body that takes up space is safe. And no amount of discipline will override a nervous system running a survival program. That is not a mindset issue. That is a physiology issue. You don't think your way out of this. You build your way out. The research on somatic approaches to trauma is clear. The nervous system updates through the body, not just by thinking, through movement that is safe, structured, and repeated, through building a physical experience of capability. When you learn to lift, not as punishment, not as performance, but as a practice of being present in your body without threat, something starts to shift. Not your weight, not your body composition, but your emotional set point, what your nervous system considers normal, what feels safe. I know this because I have lived it. I struggled with severe dysregulation, days stolen from anxiety. And I would get a text, from a situation, maybe from my divorce, going through child custody, and my body would get set off and my heart would be pounding through my chest. And there was no amount of thinking my way to my heart to slow down. I would go to the gym, I would work out, right? And I would feel that release. That is what changed over time. I could not always create that with just thought. That was not possible. And I used to think, way back then, because this was a long time ago, I used to think that, it's just endorphins. No, it was not. It was my body going from a sympathetic drive to a parasympathetic drive. And then I was able to calm down, physiologically. So here's what I want you to do with this. Not a program, not a challenge, one question. The next time you catch yourself avoiding something, the gym, a photo, a mirror, a class, before you label it laziness, ask yourself this: is this avoidance or is this protection? Because those are not the same. Avoidance you can push through with a decent amount of self-honesty. But if it is protection, your nervous system is doing exactly what it learned to do. It doesn't need to be criticized. It needs to be updated. And updating it means giving your body new information, safe movement, repeated exposure, a structure it can trust. Not intensity, not pressure, not shame dressed up as motivation. That is the work, and it is available to you at any age, at any starting point. You are not weak for hiding. You are intelligent. Your body protected you the best way it knew how, with the information it had in the environment it was in. The question isn't, why did you hide? The question is, what would it finally feel like to stop hiding? Not because someone told you to, but because your body finally has somewhere safe to land. If this landed for you, if you recognized yourself in any part of this, there is more where this came from. Subscribe and stay close. We are going to keep going deeper on exactly this type of stuff. And drop a comment below. Tell me, what did someone say about your body when you were young? You don't have to answer that publicly, but if you do, you are going to find that you are not alone, not even close.